strip it all away. The hesitation, the doubt, the voice in your head whispering, "What if you're not ready?" Remove it like armor that's grown too heavy, forged not to protect you, but to restrain you. Now, stand there. Not the version of you that flinches or waits, but the one unchained, fully awakened. Who is that? What could they do? What would they become? Fear is not just a shadow, it's a sculptor. Every time you step back instead of forward, it carves away at who you could have been. It whispers, and we listen. It warns, and we obey. But what if, just once, you didn't? What if you looked it dead in the eye and said, "Not today"? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Imagine that. You have the power to revoke fear. You were never powerless. You were just unaware. You were taught to fear things long before you understood them, taught to step back when you should have stepped up, conditioned by voices that were broken themselves, but now you see, now you're awake. And the awakened soul does not bow to fear, it transforms it. What is fear really? An illusion cast by the mind, a reaction, a chemical echo from your ancestors, forged in caves and wild places. It kept them alive, but it's killing your greatness. Because you weren't born to crouch in safety. You were born to rise in fire. Your future doesn't belong to the cautious. It belongs to the bold, those who move forward in spite of the tremble in their hands. Courage doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you refuse to be governed by what you feel. It means you act anyway. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper because they said he lacked imagination. Edison failed over 1,000 times to invent the light bulb. Lincoln lost elections, faced ridicule, buried his own children, and still stood tall enough to shape a nation. These weren't fearless men. They were men who felt fear and moved forward regardless. That's the difference. That's the line. The man who controls his fear doesn't become a machine. He becomes a master of himself, of his path, of the forces within him that once dictated the course of his life. And that mastery begins with a simple truth. Fear is a liar. It says wait. It says not you. It says they're better. It's too late. You're not ready. But those are not facts. They are chains disguised as caution. Look at your life. Look at the times you pulled back when you should have surged. Not because you couldn't, but because you doubted. Because you asked the wrong questions. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I lose everything? But ask the real question. What if I don't try? What if I stay stuck? What if I betray who I was meant to be? That version of you, the one waiting to be born, lives just beyond fear, not in fantasy, not in some distant future, here, now. On the other side of the wall, you keep building. Every day you choose comfort over growth. You think you're protecting yourself by staying still, but stagnation is just slow decay. Fear wears many masks. It's not always panic or dread. Sometimes it looks like overthinking, like endless preparation, like waiting for the perfect moment. But perfection is the enemy of movement. The world belongs to those who start before they feel ready, those who dare before certainty, those who leap before the bridge appears. There's a reason Marcus wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And how many of us, if we're honest, haven't truly begun? We scroll, we plan, we rehearse, but living, truly, fully living, that requires risk, that requires vulnerability, that requires stepping into the arena, heart pounding, knees shaking, and saying, "Here I am, I may fall, but I will not fade." Because there's something worse than failure, worse than rejection, worse than embarrassment. It's the quiet torment of wondering who you could have been, the haunting echo of unused potential, the slow suffocation of a life unlived. So ask yourself, who would I be if fear no longer decided for me? Would you write the book, start the company, walk away from what no longer serves you, speak the truth, show the world your art, your soul, your scars? Would you finally stop dimming your light to make others comfortable? You don't need a life free of fear. You need a fire greater than it. Every great act, every revolution, every invention, every masterpiece was born in the presence of fear, not its absence. And yet they moved, they bled, they fell, they stood again. Because they knew the secret. Fear is not the enemy. Stagnation is. And fear only wins when you do nothing. Discipline is what breaks that cycle. Discipline is the decision to act when emotion screams, run. It is choosing forward motion, again and again, in defiance of the old stories your mind tries to tell. Discipline is freedom in disguise. You build it in the silence, in the early mornings when no one is watching, in the choice to keep going when it would be easier to turn back, in showing up to the gym, the page, the canvas, the craft, when the comfort of quitting is whispering sweet lies in your ear. And belief is the companion of discipline. You don't need blind confidence. You need conviction. A quiet, unshakable knowing that you are more than your fears, more than your failures, more than your past. You are what you repeatedly choose. So choose to rise. Choose to feel the fear and move anyway. Choose the hard path, the honest path, the one that stretches your soul beyond what it thought it could hold. Because on that path, you'll meet the version of you that you were always meant to become. That version of you, the one who lives beyond fear, doesn't speak in excuses. He doesn't ask for permission. He doesn't negotiate with doubt. He walks forward with quiet power because he has met himself in the furnace. And he didn't run. The man who has faced his own fear is no longer at its mercy. He is dangerous. Not because he wishes harm, but because nothing can hold him back. Not opinions, not failure, not rejection. He is free. And freedom is the ultimate force, not given but taken, earned through fire, through trial, through the unrelenting choice to rise. You want to change your life? Then face what you fear most. That conversation you keep avoiding, that dream you keep postponing, that truth you keep burying beneath busyness. That version of you is not waiting in the mirror. He is waiting in the mirror of adversity. And until you walk through it, you will remain a shadow of what you could be. Think of the warriors of old, Marcus, Cato, Epictetus, men who lived not in luxury but in principle, men who lost, bled, were betrayed, and still refused to abandon virtue because they knew a man is not measured by what he avoids but by what he endures and how he stands through it. You will not conquer fear by thinking about it. You conquer it by walking directly into it, one step at a time, one breath, one bold decision. That is the Stoic path, not avoidance, not suppression, but confrontation, acceptance, movement. Marcus said, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. Now ask yourself, how much of that privilege have you sacrificed to fear? You were not born afraid. You were born curious, bold, full of potential, and unaware of limits. Fear was learned in school, in failure, in betrayal, in silence. But if it was learned, it can be unlearned. And that is your task, not to become something new, but to return to who you truly are underneath all the noise. You are not your fear. You are the one observing it. And the observer has a choice. Every moment, every day, a choice. Will I step forward or shrink? Will I build or break? Will I live or simply survive? Fear is like a fog. It looks thick from afar, but when you walk into it, it thins. Every step forward dissolves it until you realize it was never as real as it seemed. That job interview, that leap of faith, that moment of truth, the fear before it, massive. But after, power, clarity, momentum. You felt it before. Remember, that adrenaline wasn't fear. It was life demanding your full attention, your blood roaring not in panic, but in preparation. You were built for those moments, and you will meet them again. But next time, don't freeze. Lean in. Do you think Carnegie never doubted? That Roosevelt never felt afraid after being shot and still delivering a speech? That Helen Keller, deaf, blind, voiceless, never faced terror in the dark? They did, but they didn't give it the throne. You can have fear, or you can have freedom, but you cannot have both. So take the next step. Not the giant leap, just the next honest step. Send the message, make the call, take the class, write the first page. Leave what is toxic. Embrace what is real. That's how the courageous begin, not with clarity, but with commitment. You'll notice something as you keep going. The more you act, the smaller fear becomes, because fear feeds on stagnation. It grows in the dark, in hesitation, in avoidance. But once exposed to movement, to light, to courage, it shrivels. You become less controlled and more composed, less frantic and more focused, and eventually fear isn't the master, it's the messenger, a sign that you're on the edge of growth, a signal that the next level of you is near. You were not placed here to tiptoe safely to death. You were placed here to rise, to break, to rebuild, to roar. You were given the breath of life. Don't waste it holding it in. When your final day comes, and it will, fear will not sit beside you, regret will, or pride. And you decide which one greets you right now, with how you live, with what you chase, with what you risk. So ask yourself again, who would I be without fear? You'd be unstoppable, unshakable, unbreakable. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger, because you chose courage over and over until it rewired your soul, because you remembered who you are. And who are you? You are fire wrapped in flesh. You are will shaped by pain. You are purpose born of pressure. You are the descendant of warriors, thinkers, builders, dreamers. You are not fear. You are the force that conquers it. And if today is the day you stop waiting, then today is the day you start becoming. Because the becoming is not a single moment. It's not the viral success, not the applause, not the picture-perfect ending. It is the daily confrontation, the private war, the inner revolution that no one else sees. That's where the transformation happens, not in front of the world, but in the silent, sacred battles of the mind. It happens when you wake up and the doubt is loud, but your action is louder. When you hear the voice that says, "Stay in bed, play it safe, you're not ready," and you answer, "Watch me." It's not a roar. Sometimes it's a whisper, but it is steady. It is disciplined. And over time, it becomes who you are. That's when you feel the shift. When fear knocks and you don't flinch. You don't explain. You don't delay. You open the door, stare it down, and walk through it. That's what separates the ordinary from the unstoppable. Not talent, not luck, but the ability to keep moving while others freeze. Do you think the mountain trembles for your fear? Do you think time waits while you hesitate? The world turns regardless. The clock ticks forward with or without you. The only question is, will you rise with it? Because fear doesn't care about your potential. It only cares that you stay small, that you stay familiar. But purpose, purpose burns for more. It's the flame that will not let you sleep, the itch in your soul that no comfort can satisfy, and you know it. You feel it. Every time you scroll, every time you say someday, every time you shrink to fit into a smaller version of yourself. But no more. There is no growth in safety, no greatness in ease, no glory in hesitation. You already know what happens if you don't move. You've lived that version. Now it's time to meet the one who climbs anyway. Marcus Aurelius didn't write for applause. He wrote to remember, to remind himself, and now us, that the battle is within. That victory is not the absence of hardship, but the triumph of principle in the middle of it. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Your fear is not a wall. It is a door. Kick it open. And once you do, don't look back. The person you were, the one ruled by anxiety, delay, self-doubt, let them fall away like old skin. You're not abandoning them in hate. You're releasing them in love. Because you're not just running toward greatness, you're rescuing yourself from smallness. Let others waste time debating what's possible. Let them drown in opinion, in gossip, in caution. You'll be too busy building, creating, becoming. While they analyze, you'll act. While they fear, you'll forge. While they wish, you'll walk straight into the fire and shape something new from it. That's what living without fear looks like. Not recklessness, but responsibility. Not chaos, but command. You become the kind of man who shows up not only when it's easy, but precisely when it's not. Especially when it's not. Because that's when the world needs leaders. That's when your family needs strength. That's when your future self demands you dig deeper, and you will. Because you were made for it. You were made to bend without breaking, to fall and rise stronger, to feel every ounce of fear and still say, let's begin. You were not created to live your whole life in the waiting room of your dreams. You are the architect of your becoming, and the tools are in your hands. Action, belief, purpose, repetition. Fear thrives in the unknown, so make the unknown known. Move forward, test it. Build the evidence that you are not fragile, that you are not the stories they told you, that your destiny is not determined by your past. You are not the mistakes. You are not the opinions. You are not the limitations you've carried like a second skin. You are possibility made flesh. So let fear rage. Let it scream. Let it try every trick to stop you. And then smile. Because now, you know the secret. Fear only grows in the minds of those who feed it. And you're starving it. Every rep you grind out when no one's watching. Every word you write when no one reads. Every dollar you save when no one understands. Every truth you speak when no one claps. You are becoming something rare, something real. And the world may not notice right away. That's fine. Because you're not here for their validation. You're here for the mission. You're not here to impress. You're here to express what you were built for. And if you stay the path, if you continue to move forward when most would break down, if you carry the torch of who you truly are through the storm, you'll look back one day and realize fear didn't leave you. You left it behind. And when you leave fear behind, something profound happens. You stop needing to prove yourself, and instead, you become yourself. No more masks, no more watered down ambition, no more pretending that you're satisfied with half measures and hollow goals. You walk fully into the life that was waiting for you all along, the life that only reveals itself to those who dare to meet it without trembling. Because here's the truth. Fear does not vanish, but it does shrink. Every time you act, every time you move, every time you speak with conviction instead of staying silent, you become more than you were. Not in sudden flashes, but in steady rising. Look at nature. The oak tree was once a seed buried beneath darkness. The eagle, once fragile in the nest, had to leap before it could fly. Even the stars had to collapse before they could burn with light. Why should it be any different for you? You are not here to coast. You are not here to comply. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to rise. And rising, by its nature, demands resistance. It demands pressure. It demands that you feel the full weight of the world on your shoulders and choose to stand anyway. So when fear visits, and it will, do not curse it. Welcome it. Let it sharpen you. Let it be the compass that shows you where your edge is, and then push beyond it. That edge, that's the birthplace of your transformation. Remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So stop looking outward for your confidence. It will not come from applause. It will not come from comfort. It will not come from control. It comes from mastery of the inner battlefield, and that's a war only you can fight. And now, you're fighting it. Every time you say no to the distractions, every time you show up despite the noise in your head, every time you fall and refuse to stay down, you are taking back ground. Not from the world, but from the part of you that once doubted you could win. Because you can. You will. And one day, you'll look in the mirror and no longer see a man haunted by what could go wrong. You'll see a warrior marked by what he dared to pursue. You'll see someone who turned fear into fuel, doubt into drive, silence into power. And when that day comes, you'll realize it was never about slaying fear. It was about stepping into truth. The truth that you were never too broken. The truth that you were never too late. The truth that your mind is your kingdom. And you are its ruler. You'll walk with calm, not because life is easier, but because you are. You'll speak with purpose, not because it's rehearsed, but because it's real. You'll act with fire, not because you're fearless, but because you are finally free. And when the world sees you, really sees you, they'll say, he's different. Not because you wear it on your chest, but because it's written in your walk, in your energy, in the unshakable gravity of someone who has faced the worst and chosen to rise anyway. You will not need to announce your strength. It will speak before you do. So, who would you be without fear? You would be exactly who you were meant to be all along. The fire, the truth, the unrelenting will. You'd be the storm that fear can't survive. And the world wouldn't be ready for you, but it would remember you. Not because you played it safe, but because when fear told you to stop, you said, "Watch me."